I am Naneshwar Shivaji Khandbahale. Today we are going to discuss about the molecular systematics, that is RFLP and RAPD, which is a topic of our fourth paper, that is angiosperm taxonomy, that is advanced angiosperm taxonomy in MSc second. We are discussing about the taxonomy. So what is taxonomy? Taxonomy is the science of classification of the plants. In taxonomy, we always do the classification, identification and nomenclature of the plant, and that is quite previous branch of biology in which we always study the plants with its morphological aspects or its anatomical aspects for the identification, and that is called as taxonomy. We know that there are different trends in the taxonomy. These trends are, the first is the chemotaxonomy. These are the modern trends in taxonomy. In chemotaxonomy, we are always consider the chemical constitution of the plant for the analysis purpose. We always classify, identify plant on the basis of chemical nature of the plant, that is the biochemical analysis of the plant, and that is called as chemotaxonomy. This is quite recent branch in taxonomy. Again, after that, serotaxonomy is a trend in taxonomy. In serotaxonomy, we considered the protein content for the differentiation or to find out the similarities between the plant. We know that serology is the branch of biology which is related to the serum or the blood content, and which always focus on antibody and antigen reactions, and that antibody and antigen reactions can be utilized for the classification of the plant or for the separation of the plant, and this is the serotaxonomy. This is quite recent branch in the taxonomy. Then ultrastructural systematics. Ultrastructure means a structure of any one of the molecule at the ultra level, and that is called as ultrastructural systematics. In ultrastructural systematics, we use the scanning electron microscope and the transmission electron microscope for the study. So scanning electron microscope and transmission electron microscope has a high resolution power, and with the help of that microscope we can analyze the morphological characters or morphological structure or the anatomical structure at the critical level. And when we know the morphological structure or anatomical structure at the critical level, we can differentiate two different type of plants, or we can find the similarities between the plant, and that is called as ultrastructural systematics. After that, a recent trend in taxonomy is the molecular systematics. So this is a very recent trend in taxonomy. Why it is recent and why it is important? That is, molecular systematics is the use of molecular genetics to study the evolutionary relationship among the organisms or among the plants. In molecular systematics, we always try to use the sophisticated techniques which is developed in molecular genetics, that is RFLP or RAPD or the PCR, and these methods can be utilized for to find out the differentiation or similarities in between the plant, and that is called as molecular systematics. In molecular systematics, there are different tools for study the molecular systematics, and these tools are RFLPs, means restriction fragment length polymorphism. This is one of the tool in molecular systematics in which we use the restriction enzyme, and with the help of restriction enzyme we always cut the DNA into a different fragments, and we try to find out the polymorphism in that particular species, and that is involved in RFLPs. So this is one of the diagnostic tool in molecular technology or molecular systematics. Second one is RAPD, that is random amplified polymorphic DNA. In this case we use the amplification process for the DNA, and that is used in molecular systematics. Last one, that is PCR, that is polymerase chain reaction. This polymerase chain reaction is also involved in RAPD and RFLPs, but these techniques separately can be used for the diagnosis or to find out the evolutionary relationship between the plants. So in molecular systematics, we involved these three different type of tools. First one is RFLP, that is random amplified polymorphic DNA. Then RAPD, that is RFLPs, restriction fragment length polymorphism. Then RAPD, random amplified polymorphic DNA, and PCR, that is polymerase chain reaction. Our learning objective is the learner would able to understand the principle of RFLP, restriction fragment length polymorphism. So this is one of the molecular tool on which principle this RFLP is based. That is, if two organisms differ in distance between the sites of cleavage of a particular restriction endonuclease, the length of fragments produced will differ when the DNA is digested with that particular restriction enzyme. We know the restriction enzymes. Restriction enzymes are nothing but the seizures in molecular biology, and each and every restriction enzyme has a particular restriction site. So we know that every restriction enzyme cut a particular DNA at a particular site. Hence, when we have a two organism with two different genome, every genome has a particular restriction site for that particular restriction enzyme, and the locus of that restriction site is always on a different locus in that DNA or in that DNA fragment. Hence, when we cut that genomic DNA by that particular restriction enzyme, then the different length fragments will be produced in that genetic material, and the similarity and difference of the pattern thus generated can be used to differentiate the species, and this is the principle of restriction fragment length polymorphism. Suppose this is a restriction enzyme, and we know that every restriction enzyme has a particular restriction site on a genome, and again we are having, this is genome A and this is genome B, means these two different genome from a different organism. Now what we have said that every restriction enzyme has a particular restriction site. This is genome A and this is genome B, and this is the restriction enzyme. How this restriction enzyme will cut this genome? So this is genome A, and on this genome, this is the only restriction site which is present for this restriction enzyme, and on genome B, this is the restriction site, and again this is the restriction site. So when this restriction enzyme cut the genome A, it will create two fragments, and when this restriction enzyme cut the genome B, it will create three fragments. So when we cut a different genome with a single restriction enzyme, it will create a fragments of different length, and this different length fragment can be subjected to agarose gel electrophoresis, and whatever pattern will be there, that is used for the differentiation, or we can say that is to find out the similarity and differences between the genome, and this is the principle of restriction fragment length polymorphism. Learning objective is learner would be able to understand the procedure of RFLP. So RFLP will be completed in different steps, and that steps we will going to discuss. So the steps involved in restriction fragment length polymorphism are: first we have to select the genome, first we have to select the organism. After that we have to extract the DNA from that organisms. After extraction we have to go for the PCR, that is polymerase chain reaction. It will amplify our DNA, and that amplification is done with the primers. After amplification of the DNA, we have to subject that DNA for the restriction enzyme or for the digestion process, and that is digestion with restriction enzyme. It is important that we have to use a particular restriction enzyme for the digestion process. This is the digested DNA that the genome of every organism is fragmented into a different fragments, and that fragments are again of the different length. Then this digested DNA we have to subject for the electrophoretic separation. This is the pattern which is obtained after the electrophoresis, and that pattern is again detected by the laser, and this will complete the RFLP process. Now we will discuss in detail the first step of restriction fragment length polymorphism is that we have to isolate the DNA from the target. Target means organism or the plant which we have selected for the study. So first we have to isolate the DNA from the target. Once the DNA is isolated from the sample, PCR is carried out for the amplification of the DNA. We know that when we isolate the DNA from the target, the quantity of that DNA sample is very low. So we have to amplify that DNA for further process, and that amplification is done with the polymerase chain reaction, and this is the second process. In third, amplified genetic material is then subjected to the restriction digestion using particular restriction enzyme. When we isolate DNA, we subject it for the PCR, means for the amplification, and after the amplification process we have to subject that DNA for the digestion. Again we have to remember that we must use a particular restriction enzyme. So whatever DNA, target DNA we have isolated, we have to put that DNA for the restriction enzyme or for the restriction digestion. After the restriction digestion of that DNA, the digested DNA sample is then subjected to gel electrophoresis, in which the DNA is separated on its size. We know that gel electrophoresis process is for the separation of the molecules. When we isolate or when we separate the genetic material in gel electrophoresis process, that DNA will be separated on the basis of its size. So this is the fourth step. Again, next is that in agarose gel electrophoresis, many DNA fragments with a slight difference in length were produced. When we do gel electrophoresis, the target DNA is separated on the basis of its size, and we know that the restriction enzyme cut that DNA at the particular site. Hence the DNA will be fragmented in the in a length of different fragments. So every target DNA has a specific length of fragment of the DNA, and hence the fragments with a slight difference in the length were produced, and this is the pattern. And again, on the basis of similarity and differences in that banding pattern, we can establish the evolutionary relationship between the organism. When we subject the DNA for gel electrophoresis, the DNA separated on the basis of its size, and different pattern is produced for different organism. When there is the different pattern for different organism, we can find out the similarity and differences between the pattern, and on the basis of that similarity and differences we can establish the evolutionary relationship between the different organisms. So these are the very simple and very easy steps of RFLP. In first step, we have to select the target organism, we have to isolate the DNA from that target. After isolation, we have to extract or isolate the DNA, and then we have to put that DNA for the PCR. After amplification, we have to digest that DNA with a particular restriction enzyme. Again, after digestion, we have to put that DNA for a gel electrophoresis process, and after gel electrophoresis process, we will obtain a particular bands of that DNA, and on the basis of that banding pattern, we can find out the similarities and differences in between the organism, and we can establish the evolutionary relationship. Learning objective is learner would be able to know the advantages of RFLP. So advantages of RFLP is that the first is results are based on reliable genotypic characters rather than on the phenotypic characters. We know that there is a genotypic characters and phenotypic characters. The characters or the genotype is the based on genetic material, and on the basis of genotype there is the phenotype. So in RFLP, whatever result we will get, that is on the basis of genotype, and this is one of the important advantage of RFLP. Second important advantage is that RFLP based genetic markers are widely available. So in recent era, in the advancement of biotechnology, there are a wide array of genetic markers is available, and that genetic marker can be used for the RFLP. So there are a large number of genetic markers and the restriction enzymes, and that can be used in RFLP with very easily. Then RFLP can estimate the heterozygosity. What we have seen in procedure is that we obtain a particular banding pattern, and in that banding pattern we can find out the similarity and differences in between the different organism, and that is called as heterozygosity. So we can easily detect the heterozygosity in between the different organism with the help of RFLP. Next advantage is that it is highly robust methodology with good transferability between the laboratories. We can easily carry out RFLP, that is restriction fragment length polymorphism, in different laboratories. There is need of a few instruments for the RFLP, so we can carry out RFLP anywhere in any laboratories. So these are the advantages of RFLP which make it a very important. Learning objective is learner would be able to know the limitations of RFLP. we have discussed the advantages of RFLP. So there are some limitations of RFLP. First is that it is quite slow process. So as compared to PCR and as compared to other molecular diagnostic tools, this RFLP is quite slow process. It takes quite more time than the PCR and other processes. Again, it requires a large amount of sample DNA. So in PCR, we need a very small amount of DNA, but in RFLP, we required a large amount of DNA, and obviously we can amplify that DNA with the help of PCR. Again, automation is not possible in RFLP. Other processes are quite automized. We have to put the DNA and we will get the result. But in RFLP, that type of automation is not possible. This is one of the limitation of RFLP, and then not suitable for low level of polymorphism. There are some organisms which are different from one another, but at the genetic level their genetic material is similar, and that is called as a low polymorphism. So when there is the question about the organism which are having a very low polymorphism, we cannot use RFLP there, because this method is not suitable for the low level of polymorphism. When there is low level of polymorphism, we cannot differentiate or we cannot find out a large amount of similarities in between that genetic material. Again, this RFLP needed the combined process of probe labeling, then DNA fragmentation, electrophoresis, again blotting, then hybridization, washing, and autoradiography. So these are quite tedious processes. These are involved in the RFLP. So this RFLP become slow because of all these processes. It involves the probe labeling, then fragmentation, then electrophoresis, and again that blotting. In some cases there will be hybridization, then washing, and then autoradiography. So these are some limitations which are make that RFLP quite critical. Learning objective is learner would be able to know the applications of RFLP. What are the applications of RFLP? Molecular systematics serve as a complementary evidence to traditional or morphological taxonomy or the classification. When we say taxonomy, we always find out that we first consider the morphological characters, again after that anatomical characters, and then other traits. But this molecular aspects or molecular taxonomy is quite accessory for that classical type of taxonomy. Hence molecular systematics serve as a complementary evidence when we have a problem of classification of different species. Suppose we are not getting that much differentiation on morphological level, on anatomical level, or at the serological level, or at the biochemical level, we have to go for the molecular tools for find out the similarities and differences, and hence this is the complementary evidence for the traditional or morphological taxonomy. Second application, RFLP can verify the evolutionary relationship given in existing taxonomy or the classification. Suppose there are a classification system proposed by Bentham and Hooker. There are some problems about the placing of taxa, so we can find out the evolutionary relationship, or we can check out the evolutionary relationship which are given in other classification system with the help of RFLP. Next application is that RFLP can be done on different taxonomic levels. We know that in taxonomy there is hierarchy of the taxons, means there is a family, subfamily, then generic level, specific level, subspecies, and on all that level we can find out the similarities and differences with the help of RFLP. Then again, to measure the recombination rates which can lead to a genetic map with the distance between RFLP loci. We know that there is a particular restriction site on a particular DNA fragment, and that is called as loci or the locus, and so we can build up the maps of that genetic marker on the basis of RFLP. RFLP is useful in characterization of genetic diversity in the plant population. So we can find out the genetic diversity easily with the help of RFLP in all plant population. Then RFLP has been developed for chromosome mapping of human, mice, maize, tomato, rice, etc. So we can develop a chromosome map of each and every species with the help of RFLP. These are some applications of RFLP. Now we have a assignment on restriction fragment length polymorphism. So what is assignment? You have to describe the process of RFLP with the diagram. You just describe the process of RFLP, then draw the diagram, and you have to upload it on the Google Classroom. Now we'll discuss the summary, that is restriction fragment length polymorphism. We have discussed restriction fragment length polymorphism, in which we use restriction enzyme, and with the help of restriction enzyme we cut the particular DNA in a different fragments, and that produce the pattern, and we can analyze the pattern and we can find out the polymorphism, that is called as restriction fragment length polymorphism. Important factor in restriction fragment length polymorphism is the restriction endonuclease. So we use a particular restriction endonuclease for a particular investigation, and the length of fragments produced by restriction endonuclease is important. Then again we have discussed the process of restriction fragment length polymorphism, in which first we have to isolate the DNA from the target. After isolation, we have to go for PCR, that is we have to amplify that DNA. After amplification, we have to put that DNA for the digestion with a particular restriction enzyme, and after digestion we have to subject that DNA for gel electrophoresis, and after gel electrophoresis we will get a particular banding pattern, and on that banding pattern we can find out the polymorphism, and that is the similarities and differences between different genetic material. Again, on the basis of that banding pattern or on the basis of that polymorphism, we can find out the evolutionary relationship between different organisms. In next lecture, we are going to discuss about the RAPD, that is random amplified polymorphic DNA, and then PCR. These are again the two different tools in molecular taxonomy which is used for the analysis of or to investigate the polymorphism in different organism. In RAPD, random amplified polymorphic DNA, we again use a different sophisticated instruments, and PCR itself having one of the methodology which is used for the amplification of the DNA, and with the help of amplification and other techniques which are aligned by it, we can find out the polymorphism in DNA. So in next lecture we are going to discuss about the RAPD and then PCR.